Hello, Noam. I am so honored to introduce you to the audience of Pordenonelegge and to Gian Mario Villalta, Alberto Garlini, and Valentina Gasparetti. You and I have been invited to present our new book and discuss it with Gian Mario, and I will do my best to illustrate it. But before doing so, I would like you to express your thoughts on language, on our book, and whatever you think it's worth discussing. Go ahead.
Well, instead of discussing our book specifically, I would like to talk about a remarkable book of Andrea's that has a topic that may seem strange: impossible languages. Why should we be concerned with what is not possible? It's hard enough to describe what is actual. Why be concerned with what is not actual, and in fact cannot be? Well, the answer is straightforward. An inquiring mind seeks not only to describe what is, which is hard enough, but also to understand it. If we were simply to describe all the things in the world, even all the possible things, we would still understand very little about the world. We would not understand crucially why the world is this way and not some other way. It's an essential part of understanding, often overlooked. Well, why the concern of language and not something else? For an answer to that, we can go back 2,500 years to the Delphic oracle, which instructed us to know thyself, to find out what kind of creatures we are. The oracle was not concerned with our arms and legs, but with what is truly essential to us. That's our thoughts and how we construct and how we can use them. There is an ancient tradition dating from the same time, which holds that thought and language are indistinguishable. Language constructs thought. Thought is what is constructed by language. So the study of impossible languages thus leads us directly to understanding the essential and distinctive properties of this strange creature, strange species, which has been so sharply different from the rest of life since language emerged. Apparently, very recently in evolutionary time, maybe a couple 100,000 years ago, which is an eye blink in evolutionary time. Well, the study of impossible languages yields many surprising results. One, which Andrea has explored in some depth, is a fundamental property of language called structure dependence. To illustrate with one of his examples, consider the sentence: the friend of his brothers is happy, not are happy. Similarly, the friends of his brother are happy, not is happy. We should find that surprising. The simplest rule would determine the number of the copula, singular or plural, by looking at the closest antecedent, doesn't. Reflexively, we apply what seems to be a much more complex rule. Locate the central element in the noun phrase subject. The operations of our mind attend to structure, not linear order, that structure dependence. In all languages, experiment with children has shown that it's known to infants as early as they can be tested, less than 2 years old. It means that from infancy and on through life, we ignore 100% of what we hear, which is words in linear order, and we pay attention only to what our minds construct, things we never hear, what's created by the mind. Pretty remarkable fact. Gets more remarkable. One of Andrea's great contributions has been to unearth the properties of the brain that underlie this strange principle. It's actually the most important discovery to date in the very difficult field of neurolinguistics. The experiments he designed show that invented languages that observe the principle are handled by the brain areas dedicated to language. But invented languages that violate the principle elicit diffuse activity in the brain, meaning that the brain is treating it as a puzzle, not as language. That's quite a remarkable discovery. Well, again, it's impossible languages that provide the understanding of this distinctive human faculty. Carries us a significant step towards meeting the demand posed by the oracle 2,500 years ago. And in Il Secreto, doing so with imagination and artistry, it's the most exciting contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Noam. It's hard to add any other word to your thought, but one has to be remarked, namely that if it were not for your pioneering work in the 50s that showed us the limits of grammar and proved that Babel was not the infinite possible variation as everybody was believing, none of these experiments and the future ones could have been made. So let me thank you once more and hope you to invite you back to Italy and hopefully also to Pordenone. Thank you so much for this.